Hello YouTube. It's been a long while since I put out the last video, but I'm going to show you what I've been doing in the meantime. I've been creating my own traditional board game. It was for a major I'm applying to, so I tried to do my best to try to explain the rules to you, how the game works. The goal of the game is to stay psychologically alive and gain knowledge. The game is unique because it's based on psychology, and a single turn is made out of 11 steps where multiple players are involved in, and the playing field is different every single time you play the game. It's just a combination of luck and strategy. At the start of the game, every player has 0 knowledge points and 25 sanity points. The player who earns 10 knowledge points first wins the game. If your sanity points reach 0, you will lose. At the start of each turn, the playboard becomes bigger by putting tiles on the board, and with your pawn, walk over them. Walking, you might run into tokens. Those are the red beads you see in front of you. There are three types of tokens and the similar cards to them. Those are paranormal activities, PAs, hopeful events, HEs, and knowledge, K. Applies for the 3 decks with the red, green and blue color. Blue for knowledge, green for hopeful event and red for paranormal activity. You also have the shared deck, which is the deck without the colored background. These are cards you can play from your hand, because these are cards you hold. Every card has an influence on your sanity and or knowledge points. The rooms you see on the board is just to make the board look more beautiful. The board gives the steps of each turn, the amount of sanity you have, the amount of knowledge points you have, the card speed table, and special events. Sound a bit complicated right now, but I can assure you it's a lot easier than you might think. At the beginning of the turn, the player, in which now is blue, because I've already played red and green turns, and they put on tiles, they moved, they put on tokens, and they played cards. At the beginning of blue turns, he loses 1 sanity point, which goes from 25 to 24. Then he has to roll 2 dice. Believe it or not, I actually threw 11 2 times, and now I threw 10. See, I've put 10 tiles on the board. Now the turn player throws 1 dice, which is 3, and he is allowed to move that many places. After you've moved 3 places, everybody looks and sees if the player hit any tokens, which is not the case here. Now the turn player can immediately skip to the next phase, which is throw another dice. It is an A5, which means a hopeful event token goes on the board. On a 4 or 5, a hopeful event token is added to the game. If I would have thrown a 6, there would have been a knowledge token placed on the field. If it were to be a 1, 2 or 3, a paranormal activity token would have been placed on the board. And it's not allowed to be in someone's space. Someone's space is counted as the tile the player is standing on and all the tiles around it. The player before him, which is green, can throw another dice, and it says 4, and can move the token 4 times. We've got a bit of a tricky situation, because the token is not allowed to end within his space, and the turn player has to move it 4 times. And he can't walk through walls. The green player wants the hopeful event, which is a good thing, to move as far away from the blue player as possible. The token is allowed to go diagonally. It was allowed to take the step, first 1 forward and then 1 to left forward. Even though there's a wall there, they're still connecting. It's time for the card phase. The turn player has already drawn 5 cards at the beginning of the game, which means every player starts with 5 cards. I had to make the game in Dutch, so the cards and their effects and their names are all in Dutch. He has 2 paranormal activity cards in his hand, 1 knowledge card, 1 neutral card and 1 hopeful event card. In those there are two different types of cards which you can also see. There are the normal and the reaction cards. The player decides to play this paranormal activity card, which is a normal card. You're not allowed to play any reaction cards as the first card of the turn. The player after the turn player loses 3 sanity points. Player red is allowed to play a reaction card to that. That's so he doesn't lose so easily and he has something strategically add to the game. He decides to play the card, the hopeful event reaction card, which is a special card because it has a yellow star. The green card is a really good card, and because he doesn't want to just merely give the red player 3 sanity points, which means he's in a big favor compared to the rest of them, he decides to play a neutral reaction card. The card's effect is that no player will gain or lose any sanity points this turn. All the effects resolve. First the paranormal activity cards, which means player red loses 3 sanity points, but the green reaction card after that makes sure he gains 3 sanity points. And then the last reaction card, which is the neutral gray card, makes sure nobody gains or loses any sanity points. So nothing happened this turn. 3 cards are sent to the card graveyard. At the end of the turn, the blue player draws 1 card from the shared deck, and that's the end of his turn. I haven't talked about the special events yet, which are on your scoreboard. These are events which happen on certain turns. At the beginning of the 5th turn of the first player, which means after 5 turns have passed of player red, then the special event happens. Every player plays 2 PA tokens and 1 hopeful event token on the board. They're not allowed to be in someone's space. By then the board is already a lot bigger, so there are a lot of places to put them, and you can really annoy your opponents there, because if they run into a hopeful event token on their way, they have to draw a paranormal activity card or a hopeful event card or a knowledge card based on the token they ran into. At the beginning of the 8th turn of the first player, instead of placing 1 new token on the board, every turn 2 new tokens are being rolled for it to be placed on the board. At the beginning of the 11th turn of the first player, every token on the field is doubled. This only applies for the paranormal activity tokens. So no knowledge token or hopeful event tokens will be doubled. That's how the game is played. As you can see, I got a buttload of tiles there, just to add a lot of diversity to the game, that you're basically allowed to move anywhere. As you can see, I have a lot of tokens and a lot of cards too. This way you don't really get the same effect often. There are so many different effects and so many different ways to play the game. You can annoy your opponents, you can try to gain a lot of knowledge, you can try to make others lose their sanity, and you can even make others lose their knowledge points. It's about skill and it's about fun. A lot of work in this game, and I hope you enjoyed it. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. Probably just gonna play it a couple of times. Maybe invite some friends, try to think of new rules, make it more balanced. About this is it's so unique. Every single time you play, you can move the starting positions around, you can move the rooms around, and all the tiles, the walking tiles, are different every single time. You can even have players have more sanity or less sanity than others and give them more favorable positions. Not just bound to the starting positions at the edges of the board. You can also place them right in the middle, all 4 around a room or something, and have a really small field, so you can have some sort of melee board.